Today I'll be talking about the spotted bay bass. My purpose is to inform you guys about the spotted bay bass. In order to understand the spotted bay bass and the life of it, we must understand their breeding habits, their habitat and what they look like, and how to catch them. The spotted sand bass, spotted bay bass, or spotty, is a mean, feisty game fish that is a staple to many Southern California fishermen. This fish lacks size but makes up for it in its fight. There is not much known about this salty little bass species, but I am here to tell you more about it. Let's begin by understanding their breeding habits. Where do spotted sand bass go to spawn? Spotties go to spawn at or near the end of harbor mouths in Southern California. For example, a spotty may be recorded spawning at the end of Newport Harbor jetty where the harbor mouth meets the ocean. They spawn in about 30 feet of water. How do they spawn? The females initiate the spawning process by leaving the bottom and entering into the water column to release their eggs. Then the males come in and fertilize the eggs. The eggs and larvae settle out within the water column and go to the bottom within 25 to 30 days. What happens to the eggs and larvae? After the eggs and larvae settle out and turn into juvenile fish, they go back into eelgrass beds. They go into the eelgrass beds to take refuge from predators and stuff that will eat them, and just out of like the big currents, and it's like their little home. Once the fish are large enough, they go back into the bays, harbors, or estuaries to take refuge in eelgrass beds, rocks, and pilings. Now that we have gotten an understanding about their breeding habits, let's take a look at what they look like and where they call home. What they look like and where they call home. Spotted sand bass are tan, sandy, with browning spots. Their third dorsal fin is much longer than their first two. When spawning, the males have a white lower jaw and the females have a yellow lower jaw. Let's talk about their habitat. Spotted bay bass hang out in bays, estuaries, and harbors. They prefer shallow, rocky, warm water. They like lots of structure such as eelgrass and boat pillars and are rarely found out in the open. One of the main places that spotties can be found is in Mission Bay in San Diego. Mission Bay is a rather large bay and it consists of the perfect structure for these fish. They are most commonly recorded in large eelgrass beds in about 20 to 30 feet of water. Another common place for spotties is in Newport Harbor. Newport Harbor offers more man-made structure than Mission Bay, and the spotties tend to stick to boat pilings and boat moorings, but it is not uncommon to find them in eelgrass beds. Long Beach and Alamitos Bay also offer about the same structure as Newport Bay, a lot of man-made stuff. And finally, let's take a look at how to catch these fish. Fast-moving baits under the category of reaction baits trigger these fish to strike. One of the first reaction baits is a deep diving crankbait. A deep diving crankbait dives to about 12 feet of water and wobbles like a wounded bait fish. The crankbait goes by so fast the spotty doesn't know what it is and it bites out of reaction. Spinner baits are also a fast moving bait the spotties love. A spinner bait imitates a wounded bait fish. You fish a spinner bait through eelgrass and fish it slow and fast, kind of erratic, and that triggers a lot of bites. The last reaction bait is a blade bait. A blade bait is a small metal bait that looks like a bait fish. And you fish the blade bait through the eelgrass and by structure, and that triggers a lot of bites. The next way to catch them is with slow moving baits. A swim bait is a plastic fish looking bait that imitates a bait fish. It has a small paddle tail that kicks through the water and looks just like a little fish. You fish it through eelgrass and by structure. Jigs are also a very popular way to catch spotted bay bass. A jig is supposed to imitate a crustacean, and it looks like a little crab, which the crab is a main part of the spotty's diet. You fish a jig by casting out, bringing your rod tip up, letting it sink, and you do that for the whole retrieve. You fish it around eelgrass and structure. And last but not least is my favorite, the Megabass Dark Sleeper. The Megabass Dark Sleeper is a small paddle tail swim bait, and it kind of looks like a little goby, which is a main part of the spotty's diet. You fish it as slow as possible through eelgrass and right next to structure. You can even catch fish by dropping the Megabass Dark Sleeper right on the pillars. The last way to catch spotties is with bait. It's kind of frowned upon, but it still catches a lot of fish. One bait that you could use is squid. You cut up a piece of squid, put it on a circle hook with a 1 ounce weight, cast it out there and just wait. That's sure to catch fish. Another bait that works very well is squid. Not squid, shrimp. Spotties love crustaceans, and they absolutely destroy a shrimp. The last bait is sardines or anchovies. You fish sardines or anchovies the same way that you would fish squid or shrimp, on a hook with a little weight. These quick, hardy fish are one of the most fun fish to catch. They are beautiful fish with a complex breeding cycle. What makes these fish extra interesting is that they can only be found in Southern California and the tip of Mexico. The spotted bay bass is a Southern California gem.